What's up, everyone? Welcome to the NBA Daily Podcast, your home for useless news about the NBA. My name is Dawson Shine, and I'm your host. So, we have a huge weekend to talk about. Well, really, past 2 days. First of all, Sunday, May 15th, was one of the best Game 7s in Toronto sports history. Obviously, there's really not that many. But, let's look on the bright side. They won in Game 7 in the second round of the NBA playoffs for the first time ever. They're going to the Eastern Conference Finals after beating the Miami Heat 4-3 in the series on the backs of a 116-89 victory. This was a pretty close game, to be honest, up until the fourth quarter when Toronto shut them down entirely thanks to Kyle Lowry on defense and offense and the whole team clicking, outscoring them 30-11 in the final quarter to blow this game apart after only leading by 8 points going into the quarter. The Heat tried to use their small ball lineup again to try and take advantage of the game, just like they did in Game 6, to be honest. But this time, Toronto was ready, especially Bismack Biyombo, who was huge in this game. 6 for 8 from the field. He played 41 minutes. He was 5 of 12 from the free throw line. He had 16 rebounds, 17 points. Great double-double from him. And he was key because whenever they really needed a bucket, and especially in the third quarter when it was getting pretty tight, they would go to him, they'd just lob it up, and he'd run right to the hoop. On one out-of-bounds play, for example, he literally went off of a screen from DeMar DeRozan, ran straight to the hoop, they just threw it up, and he jumped over everyone else and slammed it in. And they couldn't do anything because their team, the Miami Heat, did not have anyone big enough to guard him. Their lineup played very small, and they had no other option, really. Also, Kyle Lowry decided to go off again. 5 for 7 from 3, 11 for 20 from the field. He took 11 free throws, made 8 of them. He had 35 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 4 steals. An amazing game in a Game 7. Obviously, the MVP for the Toronto Raptors. Also, DeMar DeRozan didn't have that bad of a game. He shot 12 for 29, 41%. That's not even that bad for him. He shot poorly from the free throw line, 4 for 7, but he had 28 points and 8 big rebounds. That was pretty huge because whenever they needed a bucket, they could at least count on him to try and get to the line. He just needs to work on converting from the line like he did in the regular season. Also, their entire starting lineup was in double-digit scoring. DeMarre Carroll pitched in with 14 points, Patrick Patterson pitched in with 11 and 11 rebounds, which was also huge, 7 offensive rebounds. They were incredible. And the Heat obviously had a huge disadvantage rebounding because of the height. They were out-rebounded 50-30 by the Toronto Raptors. And if you can't out-rebound someone, then you need to out-turn them over. And they didn't do that either. They had 13 turnovers to the Raptors' 9. So without turnovers and without rebounding the ball, you can't win the game. You're losing in every facet of the game. And they also shot poorly from 3. They were 7 for 25 compared to the Toronto Raptors' 9 for 20. Overall, they didn't really stand a chance. A lot of people are going to probably look back on this game and either say it was Kyle Lowry's heroics or the refs giving it to the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors shot 43 free throws compared to the Miami Heat's 23, but the Raptors earned those free throws mainly. They were working for them, and there was a couple flops on both sides, but when Kyle Lowry flopped, Dwayne Wade made sure to follow it up with an even more egregious flop. So it really kind of offset each other. There wasn't too much one-sided calls in this game. It was more so the fact that the refs were just pretty bad for both teams. But enough about the refs. The Miami Heat also had their own struggles to deal with, including scoring from their main 2 options, Dwayne Wade and Goran Dragic, who were both huge in Game 6. Dwayne Wade was 6 of 13 from the field for a grand total of 16 points. Dragic was 6 of 17 for an even grander total of 16 points. He did have 7 assists, which was good, but he was getting shut down by Kyle Lowry and really couldn't get too many open looks. The rest of their team did all right, but they could not really convert when they needed to, especially in the fourth quarter. Putting up 11 points in 12 minutes is awful, and they need to do better if they really wanted to actually make it into a deep run in the playoffs. Obviously, missing Chris Bosh and Hassan Whiteside hurt their team, but Toronto Raptors were missing Jonas Valanciunas as well, who's a huge component of their offense, and they had the depth to make up for it, thanks to Bismack Biyombo. So Toronto actually won their first second-round series ever in franchise history, and now they get to move on to face the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight at 8:30, which is so amazing because they've never had the opportunity to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and now they get a chance to at least play 2 home games, hopefully more. I think that they're going to be able to steal 2 games, one of them being on the Cleveland home court. I think they're going to steal game 1. My prediction is Cleveland will win 4-2 in Toronto in game 6. But we'll see. Hopefully my prediction comes true because I want to see a good competitive series. Speaking of good competitive series, we have the amazing game between Oklahoma City and Golden State Warriors. Obviously, I predicted Oklahoma City to play really well against the Warriors and at least steal 2 to 3 games in this series. Maybe push it to 7. Well, they got one of those last night. They won 108-102 in Oracle Arena to go up 1-0 in the playoff series, Western Conference Finals. And it was an incredible effort. They were down by up to 16 points in the first half, including down by 13 at halftime. And then they came out in the third quarter, OKC did, and outscored the Golden State Warriors 38-28 in their own building, thanks in a huge part to Russell Westbrook, who had 19 points in the third quarter alone, which is a career high for a quarter in the playoffs. And he did that all after scoring a total of 3 points on 1 for 11 shooting in the first half. After the first half, he went 7 for 10 for the rest of the game to finish with 7 of 21 shooting. On top of that, he had 12 assists, he had 6 rebounds, he only had 3 turnovers, and here's the best part, 7 steals. Russell Westbrook went out there and got 7 steals. He was playing in some of the most composed defensive mindset I've ever seen him play. He did not really have too many screw-ups on the court. He wasn't over-gambling on passes. He wasn't leaving his man open to try and steal the pass between the big man and the shooting guard or anything like that. He was staying straight up on his man and guarding him, and that was huge. He's one of the main reasons why Steph Curry had 7 turnovers last night to 7 assists. Also for the Thunder, Kevin Durant played alright. He was 10 of 30 from the field for 26 points. He did have 10 rebounds and 3 steals. He was pretty good. He was cold in the fourth quarter for most of it, but he hit the big shot to put him up with only 30-something seconds remaining in the game. And the final key component to this win has to go out to Steven Adams, because that man has been balling in the playoffs. He had 16 points and 12 rebounds. He had 2 blocks, and these were a huge 16 points. He had the best plus-minus on the Thunder with a plus 19. No one else had above a plus 8. He's the best player for plus-minus on the court. Defensively, he was awesome. He kept Bogut composed, he kept everyone out of the paint, and he held his ground against Festus Ezeli easily. On top of that, he's a very poor free throw shooter. He was 0 for 3 in the game going into the fourth quarter, and he went out there and hit 6 straight free throws to help ice the game, including the 2 that clinched the game at the end. That's huge. You're talking about a center who shoots normally below 50% at times, going out there and hitting 67% of his free throws and 6 straight in the fourth quarter to help clinch the game. That was a huge improvement from him, and he's really showing that he's growing as a player. He's one of the best young centers in the league right now, only 22 years old and showing up and consistent performing in playoff games. I'm honestly so surprised at how well he has played, and he's earned the right to be called one of the big 3 of this team. Another key component in this win was their bench. Enes Kanter and Dion Waiters combined for 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists, and they were huge. They shot 8 for 14 in total. Great. Dion Waiters is playing under control. He hit 2 big threes in the game, and he's shown his maturity by actually understanding his role on this Thunder offense. That's great to watch because it's going to be key to them upsetting the Warriors. Speaking of the Warriors, they didn't have that great of a game. Klay Thompson was 11 for 25. He started off hot in the first half, ended pretty cold. He had 25 points in the game though. Steph shot 41%, 9 of 22 from the field. He was 6 of 14 from 3, but in the fourth quarter, he failed to show up huge. He only made 1 field goal for 3 points, and he had 4 turnovers. That's not acceptable for anyone who wants to play in the fourth quarter and be called a back-to-back unanimous MVP. I'm sorry, but you need to be able to perform better in the fourth quarter, because if it was anyone else, if that was Westbrook on the other side, going 1 for 6 in the quarter, only taking 6 shots and only making 1, and having 4 turnovers, you know the media would rip him apart. If it was LeBron James, you know how many choke narratives there would be? Every single person in ESPN, on FS Sports, every channel, they would all be talking about how LeBron choked in the fourth quarter of a huge Western Conference Finals game. But no one says anything when it's Steph Curry. Because he's the golden boy, he can't do anything wrong. Well, last night he did. Partly due to the fact that his teammates Thompson and Draymond Green were taking up all the shots, but also because he wasn't making the shots when he had the opportunity. He should have just grabbed the ball and found a good open look and made it, just like he's done all season. But instead he was passive in the fourth quarter, and he failed to do that. And it cost him the win, despite having a great, stat line, 26, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. He had 7 turnovers. He was getting worked on defense by Westbrook. And when he got switched off of Westbrook, he was still getting worked by Dion Waiters. That can't happen. And he was just unacceptably absent in the fourth quarter, which cost them the win and cost them home court advantage in this series. That's huge, because the Thunder only need to win on their home court now to actually steal the series, which is very possible. Personally, I'm hoping they actually steal the series because I'd love to see a 73-win team upset in the Western Conference Finals. It'd be huge, especially for the legacies of Durant and Westbrook. But we'll see. We'll have to watch Game 2 because it'll be sure entertaining. Oh man, I cannot wait. Speaking of entertaining things I can't wait for, the NBA Draft Lottery was tonight. And it just finished up actually, which is why I'm finishing the recording now. The NBA Draft Lottery concluded. Obviously, people know about the fact that Philadelphia had the best chances at 25% to get the number 1 overall pick. Also, the Lakers would lose their pick if they were outside of the top 3. And the Celtics were the third best team for draft lottery chances, of course, not the third best team in the NBA. And it seems to have fallen the exact same way as we all predicted based on the lottery chances. 1 was the Philadelphia 76ers, 2 was the Lakers, and 3 was the Celtics. Not very entertaining for draft lottery purposes, but at least it was realistic and everyone predicted that. So it'll be interesting to see in the coming days some draft reports about who could potentially be picked by these teams or what these picks could be traded for. But I'm going to save that all for tomorrow's episode. I'm going to talk about the possibilities for each one of these teams and what they should do with their picks, going through 1 to 13, the entire lottery. So if you're interested in listening about the draft lottery, tune in tomorrow for a great show about it. I'm going to break down every team's needs, necessities, trade possibilities, and cap space problems. But I'll catch you tomorrow with that. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe. And thanks for listening. Have a great day.